Hey buddy, Aaron here. Welcome back to the Anime Talk, the show where we ask why. Why would you want to spoil yourself? I don't understand. Now, obviously from the title, you kind of have an idea what we're talking about today. Today we're going to be talking about why do previews exist. I probably will word it that way. I might word it somewhere in a different realm. Why even preview? I think I was trying to think of the title maybe for this. Maybe that'll be it. I don't know. Depends on how I feel when I do this video. But here's the question of the day, and here's the thing that I think actually the main concept of the day, actually, not the question per se, but concept. I know this is going to be a very debatable video. This is going to be something that's going to cause some people to love me, some people to hate me, and some people to stay neutral with this. I would love to hear your comments below. Tell me, what side of the spectrum do you choose? Are you all for previews in the next week's episode? Are you, like me, don't watch next week's preview because you don't want to spoil yourself? Or are you somewhere in the middle ground where it's like, depending on the show, you might watch next week's intro or excuse me, preview to be like, oh, I'm going to watch that definitely now. Now, I'm going to first argue why I understand previews are a necessary thing. But I want to argue in the sense of why previews are necessary before a show comes out. Now, movies, TV shows, anime, doesn't matter what spectrum of medium you're looking at, previews are a necessary component. This is if you're watching video games or if you're playing games or whatever, you need a preview of something. Because what it does is essentially hypes up the person or the people in general to kind of get into that new concept coming out. So it's like, oh, coming this summer, this amazing action film is coming out and it's gonna have all these explosions and this looks like a romance between this guy and this girl. Oh, it's gonna be so wonderful. It's gonna be a little bit of everything. It's got all you want and more. That is what a preview is meant to do. It's meant to hype you up. It's meant to get you to go, oh my god, this summer I'm going to be in the movie theaters. I'm going to watch that movie. I need to watch that movie. With anime, same thing. It's, oh my god, coming this season, so fall, winter, spring, summer, etc. You're going to be like, oh, what's this new show by Shaft? Or what's this new show by Madhouse? Whoa, I see bullets flying. I see a romance story with a lot of nice looking CGI or nice looking visuals, etc. I need to sit down and watch this episode. Where do I sign up? What website am I going to use? Am I going to use Crunchyroll? Am I going to use some illegal site, which I don't condone using illegal sites, but I'm just saying, where am I going to go watch it? Funimation maybe has it. Oh my god, I gotta find where to watch this. It pumps you up. It makes you want to go and watch the work that's going to be coming out in that particular time period. That is what a preview to me should be and what it should stay as. Just that. To kind of pump you up to get into something that's coming out. Now, for me, and this has been something that I believed even when I was younger, I've never enjoyed a preview for an episode after the end of an episode. So, case in point, and what I use for this description is Danganronpa, which to me, it's kind of hard to explain sometimes to people that aren't familiar with Danganronpa 3 especially, where you have two sides of the same coin because you had a side future and side despair story arc. So they were technically two series, but they were really kind of like a puzzle piece. They had to fit together perfectly to kind of explain a grandiose story at the further end of the spectrum. But the thing about it is that for this show, I always wanted to be surprised about next week's episode. I needed to know nothing about next week's episode. I wanted to see with my own two eyes, going into it, going, oh my god, that was involvement, or that was going to happen, or this character was about to have this happen. Oh, I didn't even see that coming. Or, oh, I called that. I knew it was going to happen. I figured that it would be something like that. I wanted to be surprised. And I feel like when you watch reviews, or excuse me, previews of a video at the very end of an episode, it kills the surprise. It kills the momentum of what the story is trying to convey to you as the audience. It's understandable that, like I said before, previews are meant to kind of hype you up for the whole series. I get that. But I think in a way, previews are also very big spoilers. I mean, they can be done in very vague and ominous ways, like, oh, you see some character get flying off a building or something like that, or it looks like he was shot and maybe he was going to die or whatever. That's going to happen. No matter what thing you're watching a preview of, it's going to show something that's kind of a spoiler-ish concept. But typically, they do it in a very offbeat way, so you don't know where exactly it came from. You don't know if it's going to be episode 1 that happens. You don't know if it's going to be episode 5. You don't know if that person actually avoided that bullet somehow, or if that shot didn't really kill them, it just hurt them and injured them, etc. You don't see that. You can make the inferences based on your own mindset, go, oh, okay, well, I figure this guy's a very smart character, so maybe he's wearing some kind of body-proof Kevlar armor or something like that, or some body armor that's going to protect him from a bullet, whatever. I don't know what I first said, by the way. I think it was completely far away from what I try to convey that, but you get what I mean there. But when a preview shows for next week's episode, I'm like, you see more stuff happening, and a lot of times they have to try to kind of hype you up for the next week's episode, when I feel they don't really need to do that. I think an episode just needs to be there, and you watch it to the end and be like, oh man, I can't wait till next week's episode. Sign me up. I'm ready to go. Next week's coming. Not, oh, hold on, I need to watch this preview because I need to see what's going to happen next episode. Because, I just, to me, I've never understood that. I've never seen the kind of concept of spoiling yourself for the next week's episode. I think going into a surprise is a kind of cool concept. Now, I understand, and I'm now going to say that, as I said before, I am all for not watching previews. Like, I know my girlfriend gets pissed off because I don't watch previews, and so I'm like, okay, it's okay, don't worry, I'm not going to, it's okay, it's not a big deal. But what I will say, though, is that I completely understand why people do watch previews, and I'm not taking that away from any of you. If you love watching previews, more power to you. That's completely fine, and I'm not going to stop you from doing that. I'm just saying why I don't particularly like it, why I feel like it's unnecessary. But from the spectrums of the people that do watch previews, and like my girlfriend and some of my best friends actually do this all the time, and they tell me that I'm an idiot for not watching previews, which, hey, I've also had people defend me and go, hey, he's not an idiot, he's telling the truth, you guys are the idiots for watching previews. And I'm like, okay, people, try to stay somewhat neutral. Arguments are bound to happen, but you don't need to argue certain things. Certain things don't need to even be an argument, but I think that's just how it is with a lot of stuff like this. But I understand that in a way it's also, like I said before, a kind of hype material. You want to see next week's episode, you want to hype yourself up for it next week, and it's like, oh, I want to see the preview because it's after the end credit song, so you might really love the end credit song, so you want to stay there for the whole thing. You gotta listen to it, you be like, oh, let's see what happened next week, and it's like, oh man, that looks so cool, I can't wait till next week. It hypes you up, and it enforces your hype already, because a lot of times you might already be hyped for next week's episode, but seeing that preview is gonna be like, oh, now I'm super hyped up for it. It's a whole different level. You've leveled up your hype for the next week's episode. And sometimes some previews are funny. Like, I've seen a lot of previews that do little kind of tidbits of comedy, etc. A good one, for example, like Tokyo Ghoul, where they do previews for the next week's episode, sometimes with like little chibi characters, or not really even previews. Sometimes they're just more so like split ends for the story, or kind of like just little cartoons to end this whole thing on. So I understand why you want to stick around for that. I mean, that's kind of cool in some ways. But for me, I just don't want to do that. Now, I will say, like I said before, put in the comments, I want to hear your guys' and girls' opinions on this. I want to know, what side of this, argument are you on? Are you all for previews? Are you up against them like I am? Do you feel like you're in the middle ground? Like, you could watch sometimes previews for some stuff and sometimes not? Like, for the people that are neutral, I'll kind of give you a little bit of extra argument in case you really are kind of wondering how to convey an argument for a side that essentially is middle ground. A lot of times, some shows require, a preview. Like, if you're on the fence about the show, like, I'm not really digging the show. I feel like it's okay. It's not that great. It's, it's meh so far. You might watch the preview to kind of hype yourself up, just to keep yourself watching the next episode at all. Because there have been plenty of shows that I've done that with, where it's like, I'm not sure if I want to drop this show. I'm not probably not going to drop it, but I'm like, I'm very close. Does anything happen next week that's interesting? And you'll watch a little bit of the preview and go, oh, okay, that looks pretty interesting. All right. I don't typically do that. It's very, very rare I do that. I'll be honest with you guys and girls. Very rare, even when I don't like a show, that I typically watch a preview for it. But there is a few times I've done it. A few times I've done it. I forget the exact shows I've done it for, but I know a few of the shows that I've given lower scores to, I've watched the previews for them just to kind of see if the next week's episode would be better. I think case in point, one of them would be My Yoga, Lord of the Lost Village. That was one of the shows I think I watched the preview for it a few dozen times because I was like, I want to see if I keep going with the show, because I was, as many know, my always sucked. I have no qualms about saying that. I also did with Big Order too. Big Order, I did I watched a lot of the previews for it because I wanted to see if next week's episode would be any better. So those are two shows I did it with, but beyond that, I can't really think of too many shows I did it with. But that's your argument. Essentially, if you need an argument, it's like that's to keep you going for the next show, kind of give you that energy that you need to keep going. Anyways, guys and girls, hopefully you enjoyed this anime talk. As always, if you do, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video. The whole nine. Have a great, blessed day, everyone. I will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.